I will explain the components of the system, starting with the dust collector that you're seeing on the top. Basically, the purpose of doing this is to collect the dust when I'm actively working on some projects in the workshop. Starts with the dust collector at the top that you're seeing mounted. It's a 2 horsepower Harbor Freight dust collector that I mounted on the top of the wall there. And from there, you're seeing a number of components here. The first one that I want to talk about is this dust separated first stage. This helps you convert a single stage dust collector into a 2-stage system. By putting in the cyclone in front of it, what happens is that 95% of the dust that is generated from the wood shavings are collected in this barrel. I purchased this barrel and then created a cyclone out of that by putting in an intake and an outlet valve. So all the dust that comes in initially gets pulled through, 95% of it goes through here, and just 5% of that then goes through the system and then goes into this filter and into the bag over there, right? This helps to prolong the life of the machine and also ensure that most of the dust is collected before it enters the dust collector. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the PVC piping, right? If you're looking at this, mostly it has been done, all the connections have been done with 4-inch sewer pipes. To the maximum extent, I've tried to minimize the use of flex hoses because they say that that compromises the efficiency of the system. The flex hoses are only limited to the end points, as you're seeing here in the bandsaw. It comes here till the end using a steady sewer pipe, and from there it connects using a flex hose to the bandsaw. Right, the same thing happens with the router table as well, and then there's a Y connection there from where there's a flex pipe that gets routed here. Same thing with the miter saw. Now, I also want to point out the fact that each of these machines also has its own blast gate. So as the air moves through the system, if I wanted to come to a specific machine, what I do is I just pull this blast gate out, which means the air is going to come there and the suction is going to be to that machine. Now, the most difficult part of this whole installation was there are no standard fittings available for this type of work, right? So each of the measurements for the ports at the back of the machine, to the connections that have to be made, and the blast gates that have to be made, none of the parts seem to be matching each other. There are no standards around here. So I had to mix and match and finagle them, to basically assemble all of them together, right? So most of them as you're seeing, are friction fit. But I've got to make some adjustments wherever that was needed. Like for example, this piece of pipe doesn't connect directly to this flex hose because the flex hose doesn't go into this directly. So I had to use a connector in between to basically connect it and clamp it to the pipe clamp. And over here, if you're looking at this, the Y connection over here that connects to the blast gate, right? The blast gate doesn't directly fit into the Y. So I had to use another thin piece of sewer pipe to make connection between these two and then connect to the sewer pipe. So everywhere that I had to make these kind of connections to get in through the dust collection. So the other thing I want to call out is the boom arm. This is fantastic. This is basically inspired by the Lincoln Street Woodworks. So if you're looking here, what this does is this helps me bring the dust collector functionality to my machines located at the other end of the shop, right? So what this does is, if you're looking at it here, this arm actually swings open and enables me to use a dust collection. So let me show you what it does, right? So I go and unlock this, and that helps me open this arm. It swings up here. As you're seeing, the wiring for the electricity has been done here. So I have about a 50 feet extension cord over here, which I can pull out, and I can direct it to any of the machines set on the other side of the shop. I have the dust collector routed through here. So I can put a flexible piece of hose here and connect it to my table saw. And I also have the rigid vacuum over here, which I can plug through, and I can do any vacuuming that I need to over here. I'll show you all of that in the demonstration. We are first going to showcase the table saw and how effectively the dust collector works for collecting the dust from the table saw. This is a piece of MDF. MDF, as you know, generates a lot of dust. And I want to show cutting that through, rip cutting through that to see how much of dust generally falls on the floor. So you see the flex connected to the boom arm and connected to the machine there to table saw, and you're seeing the boom arm being used where the extension cord is being plugged into the table saw. Now let's try doing a trial cut. Before we start, let's look at the filter bag. There's almost nothing over here. I'm expecting most of the dust to go into the barrel here. So let's check it out after we make the cut. A cut like this with an MDF typically generates a lot of dust, but if you're looking at it on the floor here, there's absolutely no dust. So everything has been suctioned into the system. Now let's try it with the bandsaw. Before we do the bandsaw, I want to show one thing about the boom arm. Because the weight of the boom arm, it usually swings out. So if you keep it like this, it usually swings out like this. So to hold it in place, I've attached this piece of barrel bolt. So just go, lock it up. That's it. So the router has also collected most of the dust shavings. A little bit is left over here, but that's very less compared to what it was before, and it can be easily vacuumed out. Now let's see how the boom arm helps me with the cleanup of the table. It can be used for vacuuming other places around as well. Now let's check the efficiency of the system. How much dust has it collected? So as you're looking at this filter bag is almost the same as before. Nothing much has come out here, which means I expect about 90% of the dust, 95% of the dust to be captured here. I've already unhooked it and opened it up. So let's take a peek inside. Look at that. That is the amount of dust that has been generated that would have otherwise gone into my lungs. So it is working fine. Thank you so much for watching.